Hey guys, and welcome back. Tonight we journey to the golden sands of ancient Egypt, a land of majestic pyramids and serene eternal gods. We see the beautiful, orderly paintings on the tomb walls, and we imagine a life of simple, sun-drenched harmony. But the reality for the people who lived and died by the Nile was a world of invisible parasites, of relentless plagues, of brutal, back-breaking labor, and of a justice system with no mercy. You are about to spend one day in this world, armed only with your modern body and your modern knowledge. And we're going to see why you wouldn't survive it. So before the first parasites find their way into your water, take a moment to like the video and subscribe if you enjoy these quiet journeys into the past. As always, it is a pleasure to see where you are all listening from. So let me know in the comments. All right, dim the lights. Let the world outside fade away. And let us step back in time. You awaken not to the gentle electronic chime of an alarm, but to the suffocating, oppressive heat of a world without climate control. The sun is not yet fully risen, but the air inside the small, windowless, mud brick house is already warm, thick, and smells of dust, of the goat that shares your living space, and of the faint, ever-present, muddy scent of the great river that is the source of all life and of all death. You are lying on a simple reed mat on the packed earth floor. Your body aches from a sleep that was not restful, but merely a brief, sweaty pause in a life of labor. And the first and most powerful sensation that floods your consciousness is a profound, primal, and all-consuming thirst. Your mouth is as dry as the desert sand. Your tongue is a thick, clumsy piece of leather. A dull, pounding headache has already begun behind your eyes. It is the simple, honest thirst of a body that has spent a long, hot night losing moisture to the dry air. Your 21st century brain, your modern, instinctual self, has only one simple, urgent command: find water. You push yourself up. In the corner of the small, dark room, you see it. Salvation. A large, beautiful earthenware jug. Its sides cool with condensation. It is the household's water supply, drawn from the Nile by the woman of the house late yesterday evening. You crawl towards it, your entire being focused on this single, simple goal. You reach the jug. You can feel the coolness of the clay. You can hear the water sloshing gently inside. You find a simple, cracked pottery cup, and you tip the heavy jug, pouring yourself a cup of the life-giving liquid. And then you pause. You look into the cup, and the knowledge that you, the modern time traveler, possess, while the ancient Egyptian family that lives here does not, becomes a terrifying and paralyzing burden. The water is not clear. It is a cloudy, murky, brownish green, filled with the fine, suspended silt that gives the Nile its character. But the visible dirt is not the problem. The problem is the invisible world teeming within that single cup of water, a world you understand with a horrifying, scientific clarity. You know that this water, drawn from the great, life-giving river that is also the world's largest open sewer, is a living, writhing soup of death. You know that it is filled with bacteria that your immune system has never encountered. Strains of E. coli, of cholera, of typhoid. You know that it is contaminated with the waste of 1 million people and 1 million animals from the villages and cities upstream. But worse than the bacteria are the parasites. You stare at the murky water, and you can almost see them, the invisible monsters of this world. You can picture the microscopic eggs of the guinea worm, which, if you swallow them, will grow inside your body for a year, becoming a long, thin, 3-foot-long worm that will then slowly, agonizingly emerge from your skin through a burning, painful blister. And then there is the greatest and most insidious killer of them all, the true and silent plague of this beautiful, sun-drenched land. You can picture the life cycle of the schistosoma worm with a textbook clarity. You know that the water in this cup is likely filled with its invisible, fork-tailed larvae, the Cercariae. You know that these larvae, which have emerged from the snails that live in the reeds by the riverbank, are now swimming in this very water, seeking a warm-blooded host. You know that these larvae, if you drink them, will burrow directly through the lining of your mouth and your throat, will enter your bloodstream, and will make a home for themselves in the veins around your bladder and your intestines. There they will live for years, an invisible, vampiric colony, producing thousands of eggs that will slowly, inexorably destroy your internal organs from the inside out, causing a lifetime of pain, of blood in the urine, and a slow, wasting death. You are faced with the first and most fundamental, impossible choice of your day. Your body is screaming with an agonizing thirst. Your modern mind is screaming with an equally agonizing knowledge of the poison you are about to drink. To not drink is to risk a swift and certain death from dehydration and heat stroke in the brutal Egyptian sun. To drink is to risk a slow, painful, and almost certain death from a parasitic infection for which there is, in this world, absolutely no cure. You look at the family that owns this hut, who are now beginning to stir. You watch as the small child, a boy of 5, is given a cup of this same water by his mother. He drinks it gratefully, thirstily. For them, this is not a choice. This is life. The constant, low-grade fevers, the blood in the urine that they call male menstruation. The swollen bellies, these are just the normal aches and pains of an existence where every drink of water is a roll of the dice. Your thirst is a fire in your throat. Your knowledge is a terror in your mind. You are holding a cup of poison that is also the only thing that can keep you alive for the next few hours. You have been in ancient Egypt for less than an hour, and you are already faced with a choice that you cannot possibly survive. You are a prisoner of your own thirst, standing in the small, dark, mud brick hut, the cup of silty, parasite-infested water held in your trembling hand. To drink is to risk a slow, agonizing death. To refuse is to succumb to the swift, brutal death of dehydration in the coming heat. You look at the family around you as they drink their morning water without a second thought. This is the first and most fundamental rule of survival in this ancient world. There are no safe choices, only different kinds of risk. With a sense of fatalistic despair, you raise the cup to your lips, and you drink. Now, your body's second great need asserts itself: hunger. The gnawing emptiness in your stomach is a familiar, if unpleasant, sensation. The woman of the house, your host, moves to the small, smoky fire pit in the center of the room. The morning meal is being prepared. It is a simple affair. She takes a round, flat, and heavy-looking loaf of dark bread from a clay pot, where it was stored overnight. She breaks it into rough pieces with her hands and gives a portion to you, to her husband, and to her children, along with a few sharp-tasting green onions. This is breakfast, and it is your next great trial. You look at the bread in your hand. It is the staff of life, the foundation of the entire Egyptian diet. It is called ta, and it is what the gods eat, what the pharaoh eats, and what the lowest peasant eats. But you, with your modern knowledge, understand the terrible, hidden secret that is baked into every single loaf. You look closely at the bread's texture. It is a coarse, dense, and heavy bread made from emmer wheat. But as you examine it, you can see them. Tiny, almost invisible, glittering specks embedded in the dark crumb. It is sand. The source of this contamination is not a lack of cleanliness. It is the very process of life itself. You picture the scene of its creation, a scene repeated in every household in this land. You picture this same woman kneeling for hours on a day like yesterday, before a quern. A quern is a simple, brutal machine for making flour. Two heavy pieces of stone, usually sandstone or granite, rubbed together. She would place the hard, dry grains of wheat on the lower stone, and with a smaller, loaf-shaped stone held in her hands, she would grind back and forth for hours, her body rocking in a rhythm of pure, exhausting labor. And as she grinds the grain into flour, the two great stones grind against each other. With every pass, tiny, microscopic particles of the stone itself, sand, grit, the very essence of the rock, are scraped away and mixed into the fine, white flour. It is an unavoidable byproduct of the technology of the age. The woman has taken this gritty, sandy flour, mixed it with water from the parasite-filled Nile, and baked it into the loaf you are now holding in your hand. You take a bite. The taste is not unpleasant. It is a nutty, slightly sour flavor. But the texture is a horrifying revelation. With every chew, you can feel a distinct, unmistakable, and deeply unnerving grittiness. It is a fine, sandy crunching sound that you can feel resonating through the bones of your own skull. It is the feeling of eating sandpaper. You look at the Egyptian family. They are eating their own portions with a simple, honest hunger. They do not notice the grit. Or rather, they notice it in the way that you might notice the air you are breathing. It is simply the nature of bread. Bread is gritty. This is a fundamental fact of their existence. But you know the long-term consequences. Your modern mind, filled with a knowledge of dentistry that would seem like a form of divine magic here, understands what is happening with every single gritty bite. You know that this constant, abrasive grit is acting like a relentless, microscopic file upon the teeth. You know that with every meal, every single day of their lives, the hard, protective enamel of their teeth is being slowly, inexorably ground away. You have seen the skulls of their ancestors in the museums of your own time. You have seen the teeth worn down into flat, polished, and agonizingly sensitive stubs. You know that this simple, daily bread is the source of a lifetime of chronic and often unbearable dental pain. You know that it will lead to exposed nerves, to rotting, abscessed roots, to infections that can spread from the jaw to the brain, leading to a slow and agonizing death. You are faced with your second impossible choice of the morning. You are hungry. Your body craves the energy that this bread will provide. But your mind knows that to eat it is to actively participate in the slow, grinding destruction of your own healthy, modern teeth. It is to invite a future of a pain so profound that it was a common and accepted part of life for every single person in this ancient world, from the lowest slave to the pharaoh himself. You force yourself to chew another bite of the sandy, gritty bread. You can feel it, a horrible, scraping sensation on your own clean enamel. The family's small child smiles at you, his own small baby teeth already showing the faint, telltale signs of the wear that will define his life. You have survived the water, and now you have survived your first meal. But you have learned another horrifying and fundamental truth about this ancient world. Here, in the golden land of the pharaohs, even the most basic, most holy, and most necessary act of sustenance, the eating of your daily bread, is an act that is slowly, surely, and inevitably grinding you down. You have survived the first two great trials of the Egyptian morning. You have gambled with the invisible parasites in the water, and you have endured the abrasive, tooth-destroying grit of the daily bread. Your thirst has been quenched, and the gnawing hunger in your stomach has been temporarily silenced. Now, you must leave the relative, if squalid, safety of the mud brick hut and face the world. It is time to go to work. You follow the man of the house, or host, out of the low, dark doorway and into the brilliant, chaotic, and profoundly unsanitary world of a Theban street. The change is immediate and overwhelming. The sun, which was a gentle, rising presence just an hour ago, is now a fierce and powerful god, its white-hot glare reflecting off the whitewashed walls of the houses, creating a brilliant, almost blinding light. The heat is already a physical presence, a dry, baking heat that seems to radiate up from the earth itself. But it is the street itself that is the true shock to your modern sensibilities. You are not walking on a paved, cobblestoned, or even a simple gravel road. You are walking on a narrow, uneven, and deeply rutted track of hard-packed, dusty earth. And it is filthy. You stepped into a world that has no concept of municipal sanitation, no system for the disposal of waste. The street is the city's great, open-air garbage dump. You see piles of household refuse, rotting vegetable peels, discarded pottery shards, the bones from last night's meal, simply thrown into the street, where they are being picked over by a pack of skinny, feral dogs. The smell is a complex and deeply unpleasant assault on your senses. It is the smell of dust, of hot sun on dry earth, of the nearby muddy river. But woven into it is the sharp, ammoniacal stench of animal and human waste. There are no sewers. The contents of the household's chamber pots are simply and unceremoniously tossed into the street, where the hot sun bakes them into a dry, fine powder. You must watch your every step, not just to avoid the ruts and the rocks, but to avoid the piles of human and animal excrement that are a normal and accepted part of the urban landscape. And it is this dust, you realize with a wave of pure scientific horror, that is the true invisible killer here. Every footstep, every gust of wind, every passing donkey kicks up a cloud of this fine gray dust. And you know what it is. It is not just dirt. It is a fine, aerosolized powder of dried, pulverized fecal matter, of animal and human waste, teeming with the invisible eggs of parasites and the hardy, sleeping bacteria of 100 different and deadly diseases. Every breath you take in this city is a gamble. You are inhaling a fine mist of sickness. And then, there are the flies. You have never, in your modern life, seen so many flies. They are not a simple annoyance. They are a plague. A constant, buzzing, and ever-present black cloud that covers everything with a shifting, shimmering carpet of life. They rise in a thick, angry swarm from the piles of refuse as you pass. They crawl, in their hundreds, over the slabs of dried fish and the sticky piles of dates for sale in a market stall. They land, without ceasing, on your face, on your lips, in the moist corners of your eyes, and you are engaged in a constant, weary, and ultimately futile battle of waving them away. You know with a chilling biological certainty that every single one of these flies is a tiny, mobile vector of pestilence. You watch, horrified, as a single fly rises from a fresh pile of donkey dung, its legs and its mouthparts covered in a microscopic, glistening film of filth. And then, a moment later, it lands directly on the face of a small child who is sitting in a doorway, its tiny feet crawling near the child's mouth. This is how disease spreads. It is a simple, brutal, and inescapable fact of this world, a fact that is completely unknown to the people who live and die here. You are not walking alone. The street is a crowded, chaotic river of humanity. You are jostled by a group of off-duty soldiers, their laughter loud and boisterous. You are pushed aside by a donkey, its back laden with heavy sacks of grain, its owner shouting a sharp, guttural command. You see priests in their clean white linen, who seem to glide through the filth without touching it. You see beggars, their bodies a landscape of open sores and untreated ailments. Their hands outstretched, the noise is a constant percussive assault. The shouts of the vendors, the braying of the donkeys, the barking of the dogs, the chatter of 100 different conversations in a language you do not understand. It all merges into a single overwhelming roar. This is your morning commute. You are a man of the 21st century, a creature accustomed to the quiet, sterile, and deeply private bubble of a personal automobile or a clean, orderly public transport system. The sheer, unrelenting, and in-your-face reality of this ancient street is a profound and deeply stressful shock. There is no personal space. There is no escape from the noise, from the smells, from the constant, pressing presence of other bodies. You finally arrive at your destination, a vast, open, and sun-drenched construction site on the edge of the city where a new temple is being built. You have survived your commute. You have navigated the filth, the flies, and the crowds. You have not yet, you pray, contracted dysentery or cholera from the dust you have been breathing for the last half hour, but the day is still young. And the greatest and most relentless of all your Egyptian enemies, the sun itself, is only just beginning its long, hot, and potentially lethal journey across the sky. You have survived the morning's gauntlet of invisible threats. The parasites in the water, the grit in the bread, the aerosolized filth of the city streets. Now you arrive at the temple construction site, and you are confronted with a new kind of enemy. This one is not invisible. It is not a secret. It is a vast, white-hot, and ever-present God that dominates every aspect of life in this land. It is the sun. The work site is a vision of hell, a great, open, and almost completely shadeless expanse of churned earth and brilliant white stone. The sun, which was just beginning its ascent when you woke, is now climbing towards its zenith, a merciless and all-seeing eye in a sky of pure, cloudless blue. Its heat is a physical, oppressive force, a weight that bears down on your head and your shoulders. The pale limestone of the half-finished pylons and the white sand of the ground reflect the sun's glare with a blinding, painful intensity, forcing you to work with your eyes squinted to a narrow, weeping slit. You are not a skilled artisan. You will not be in the relative shade of a stonecutter's tent, carving delicate hieroglyphs. You have been assigned to the lowest, most common, and most physically demanding of all the tasks. You are to make bricks. Your work team is a group of 50 other men, all of you stripped down to a simple linen loincloth that offers no protection from the sun's rays. Your overseer is a grim, leather-skinned Egyptian with a long reed cane that he uses to point, to command, and to strike the backs of those who slow their pace. The work is a relentless, mind-numbing, and back-breaking cycle. You begin at the mud pit. It is a great, shallow depression filled with a thick, dark, and heavy slurry of Nile mud, a substance as black and as rich as the land itself. Your first task is to mix in the binding agent. Other laborers bring baskets of dry, chopped straw, and it is your job to tread it into the mud with your bare feet. You step into the pit, and the mud is cool at first, a deceptive relief. But it is thick, heavy, and clings to your legs like a greedy monster. You and the other men begin to stomp back and forth, your feet and legs churning the straw into the mud until it is a single, uniform, and fibrous paste. Then comes the molding. You scoop up a great, heavy double handful of the thick, wet mud. You carry it to a row of simple, rectangular wooden molds that lie on the ground. You slap the mud into the mold, using your hands to press it firmly into the corners, ensuring there are no air pockets. You take a flat piece of wood and scrape the excess mud from the top, leaving a smooth, flat surface. And then comes the hauling. You must lift the heavy wooden mold, which now contains a single wet, and incredibly heavy mud brick. You carry it, your back and arms screaming with the strain, to the vast open drying fields. There, you've carefully overturned the mold, leaving the perfect, wet, gray brick lying on the hot sand to be baked by the sun. You return to the mud pit to do it all again. Mix, pack, carry, repeat. This is your entire world for the next 4 hours. It is a rhythm of pure, brutal, and utterly exhausting labor. And it is all performed under the direct, unwavering, and murderous gaze of the sun. You are a modern man. Your body is soft, your skin pale and unaccustomed to this world. And it begins to break. You can feel your exposed skin, your shoulders, your back, your face beginning to burn. It starts as a warm tingling, then becomes a hot, tight, and deeply painful sensation. You are being slowly cooked alive. There is no such thing as sunscreen. There is no relief. The thirst, which you had so dangerously quenched this morning, returns with a vengeance. The heat, the sweat, the dry, dusty air, it all conspires to suck the moisture from your body. Your tongue is a dry piece of wood in your mouth, again. You can see the water skins, guarded by an official, but you know that every sip is a gamble with the invisible parasites that live within. To drink is to risk a slow death. To not drink is to risk a fast one. You are sweating profusely, your body's only defense against the heat. But you are losing precious water and salt with every drop. A wave of dizziness washes over you. The world tilts, the bright sun and the dark mud swirling together. You stumble, catching yourself before you fall. You look at the Egyptian laborers around you. Their dark skin, accustomed to a lifetime under this sun, seems to drink in the heat without complaint. They are hardened to this world in a way you can never be. They work with a steady, enduring rhythm. Their bodies lean, hard, and efficient machines. But even they are not immune. You see an older man, his movements grown slow and clumsy, stumble. He does not catch himself. He falls to his knees, his head hanging, his body trembling. The overseer is there in an instant. He does not offer a helping hand. He strikes the man across the back with his reed cane. "Get up, lazy dog," he shouts. "The temple will not build itself." The man tries to rise, but he cannot. He collapses onto the ground. The overseer, with a grunt of pure disgust, signals to 2 other men. They drag the fallen man by his arms out of the sun and dump him in the meager sliver of shade cast by a half-finished wall. There is no medicine, there is no concern. He will either recover or he will die. And if he dies, there are 1,000 other men ready to take his place. You are a resource, and you are utterly, completely disposable. The horn finally blows, signaling the brief midday break. You drop the heavy wooden mold you are carrying. You stumble, your legs trembling with exhaustion, to the same sliver of shade. You collapse onto the ground, your body a single screaming symphony of pain. Your skin is on fire. Your head is a pounding drum. Your thirst is an agony. You have only been working for a few hours. The hottest, most brutal part of the day is still to come. And you know, with a terrifying and absolute certainty, that you will not survive the afternoon. You are huddled in a sliver of shade, a thin, sharp line of darkness cast by a half-finished temple wall. The midday break is a brief, almost insulting, pause in the long, brutal sentence of the day's labor. The sun is at its absolute zenith, a white, merciless, and all-seeing eye that has bleached the very color from the sky. The air is no longer just hot. It is a physical, suffocating weight, a furnace blast that seems to scorch the inside of your lungs with every breath. Your body is a landscape of misery. Your skin is a tight, painful, and angry red. the flesh of a man who is being slowly roasted alive. Your head is a pounding drum of dehydration, and your mind is a thick, gray fog of pure animal exhaustion. A man comes by with a water skin, and you take your ration, a few precious swallows of the cool, silty, and parasite-filled Nile water. You know the long-term risk, but the immediate, agonizing fire of your thirst is a far more compelling tyrant. Then comes the bread, the same coarse, heavy, and sand-filled rye loaf from the morning. You force it down, your throat too dry to swallow easily, your modern teeth aching with the imagined grinding friction of the stone grit. It is not a meal. It is a desperate tactical refueling. And then the horn blows, a short, brutal, and unforgiving blast. The respite is over. A collective, unified groan of pure, unadulterated despair rises from the hundreds of men huddled in the slivers of shade across the great worksite. You watch as they force their aching, exhausted, and overheated bodies back to their feet. You must do the same. You place your hands on the hot stone behind you and push yourself up, your muscles screaming in protest. The world tilts and swims for a moment. You are not just tired. You are on the verge of collapse. But the overseer's cane is a more immediate and more certain threat than the dizziness in your own head. Your task for the afternoon has changed. You have been moved from the wet hell of the mud brick pits to the dry hell of the rubble fields. You are now part of a team clearing the ground for a new section of the temple's foundation. The work is, if anything, even more mindless and more brutal. Your job is to lift the sharp-edged, heavy chunks of limestone rubble, the waste from the stonemason's work, and carry them to a designated pile on the edge of the site. You bend down to lift your first stone. The heat radiating from its pale surface is so intense it is like picking up a hot coal from a fire. You lift, you carry, you drop. You turn, you walk back, and you do it again. It is a rhythm of pure, repetitive, and brain-numbing misery. It is on your 10th trip, or perhaps your 100th. Time has ceased to have any meaning that it happens. It is not a dramatic event. It is not a collapsing scaffold or a falling stone block. It is a small, simple, and stupid accident, the kind that is born of pure, grinding fatigue. You are lifting a particularly awkward piece of rubble, a flat slab of limestone with a razor-sharp, freshly broken edge. Your hands are slick with a mixture of sweat and the fine white stone dust. Your mind, which was once a sharp and reliable tool, is now a dull, foggy, and unreliable thing. For a fraction of a second, as you are heaving the heavy stone up, your concentration wavers. Your grip slips. The sharp edge of the stone slides down through your grasp. You feel a sudden, white-hot, and shockingly intimate searing pain in the palm of your left hand. You cry out, a short, sharp gasp of pain, and you drop the heavy stone, which lands with a dull thud by your feet. You look at your hand. A deep, clean, and impossibly straight gash runs from the base of your thumb to your wrist. It is not a catastrophic wound. It is a simple, deep, and very, very dirty cut. For a moment, there is only the clean, sharp pain. And then the blood comes. It wells up from the gash, a surprisingly dark red against the pale, dust-covered skin of your palm. It mixes with the white limestone dust and the grime of your own sweat to form a thick, pinkish, and obscene-looking paste. The overseer, drawn by your cry, stomps over. He glances at your hand with an expression of pure, undiluted annoyance. He does not see a wounded man. He sees an inefficient worker, a disruption in the day's quota. "What is this?" he bunks. "Have you forgotten how to hold a stone?" He does not offer a bandage. He does not offer a word of comfort. He simply gestures with his cane. Wipe it in the dust and get back to your work, he says. The temple will not build itself with the tears of a clumsy fool. You stand there, your hand a source of a new, brought, and insistent pain. And your modern mind, your 21st century knowledge, begins to scream. You are not just looking at a cut, you are looking at an open gateway. You are looking at a formal invitation to every invisible monster in this ancient and filthy world. You can almost see them, the microscopic demons that your companions here cannot even imagine. You see the tetanus spores from the animal dung that is mixed into the very soil you are standing on. You see the staphylococcus bacteria that are teeming on your own dirty skin, on the surface of the stone, on the filthy rag of your loincloth. You see the gangrene, the septicemia, the slow, agonizing, and almost certain death that is at this very moment being poured directly into your own bloodstream. A fellow laborer, an old Egyptian man with a kind, wrinkled face, sees the look of horror on your face. In a moment of rough, well-intentioned kindness, he offers his own folk remedy. He scoops up a handful of the cool, wet Nile mud from a nearby puddle and offers it to you. Here, he says in his own tongue, pack this in it. It will stop the bleeding and draw the evil spirits out. You are now faced with another impossible choice. To refuse his kindness would be an insult. But you know that the mud, which is rich with the unseen waste of the entire Nile Valley, is not a cure. It is a guarantee of infection. With a sense of utter, fatalistic despair, you wrap your bleeding hand in a strip of your own filthy, sweat-soaked linen loincloth. It is a crude and unhygienic bandage, but it is the only thing you have. You have just introduced a new universe of bacteria to the wound. You return to your work. You now lift the heavy, sharp stones with only one good hand. The other, a throbbing, fiery ball of pain, wrapped in a dirty rag. The sun is still your enemy. The heat is still your enemy. But you now have a new and far more insidious enemy that has breached your body's defenses. It is a silent, invisible killer, and you know you have absolutely no way to fight it. You have survived the water, the bread, the streets, and the sun, but you will not survive this simple, careless cut. The horn blows, signaling the end of the day's labor. The sound is a mercy. You stumble away from the rubble fields, your entire body a single, unified instrument of pain. But the deep ache in your muscles and the burning of your sun-scorched skin are now distant, secondary concerns. Your entire universe has contracted to the hot, searing, and ever-intensifying agony in your left hand. You make the long, slow journey back through the filthy, crowded streets to the small mud brick house. You do not eat the evening meal. You have no appetite. You simply collapse onto your reed mat, a wave of shivering chills racking your body despite the oppressive heat of the small hut. The night is a new and terrifying landscape of suffering. The pain in your hand is no longer a sharp, clean pain from a simple cut. It has transformed. It is now a deep, profound, and rhythmic throbbing, a monstrous heartbeat of pure agony that radiates up your arm. You are in the grip of a powerful and escalating fever. You drift in and out of a delirious, sweat-soaked sleep, haunted by nightmares of the invisible, microscopic monsters you know are now feasting on your own flesh. By morning, the situation has become a catastrophe. Your host and his wife look at your hand, and their faces, usually so full of a weary resignation, are now masks of genuine, wide-eyed fear. Your hand is no longer a hand. It is a grotesque, swollen, and discolored claw, the fingers puffed up like sausages, the skin a tight, shiny, and angry red. And worse, they can now see the faint but unmistakable red lines beginning to snake their way up your forearm. The sickness is moving. It is winning. Your host family knows that this is now beyond the realm of simple folk remedies. The wound is not healing. It is being consumed by a foul and aggressive spirit. It requires a professional. They do not take you to a learned physician. Such a man is for the nobles and the scribes, and his fees are a king's ransom. They take you to the local expert, the man who deals with the real, physical ailments of the working people. They take you to the priest healer at the small local temple. The journey is a blur of pain and fever. You are half carried through the morning streets, your head lolling, the world a swimming, distorted mess. You arrive at a small, dark chamber in the outer precincts of the temple. The air is cool here, and it smells of old, burned incense, of 100 strange dry herbs, and of the faint, underlying scent of sickness and despair. The walls are covered in painted images of the hewing gods, of Thoth, the ibis-headed god of knowledge, and of Sekhmet, the lion-headed goddess of both plague and of cure. The priest healer is an old man, his head shaved, his eyes as calm and as ancient as the river Nile itself. He unwraps the filthy, bloody rag from your hand with a practiced, gentle touch. He looks upon the swollen, festering, and corrupted flesh, and he nods slowly, not in horror, but with a look of calm, professional recognition. He has seen this enemy 1,000 times. He knows its name. He turns to you, and he begins to explain the nature of your affliction. He does not speak of invisible germs or of bacteria, concepts that are 1,000 years in the future. He speaks of Wadu. You listen, a prisoner of your own modern knowledge, as he explains his ancient and terrible science. He tells you that your injury, the open wound, has allowed a foul, corrupting substance, the Wadu, to rise up from your bowels, the natural seat of all bodily decay and putrefaction. He explains that this evil substance has traveled through your body and has now pooled in your hand. The pus, the swelling, the heat, the red lines, these are not the signs of your body fighting a battle. They are the physical manifestation of the Wadu itself, a tangible evil that is now poisoning your flesh. The cure, therefore, is not a matter of cleaning the wound in a physical sense. That would be useless. The cure must be a twofold act of powerful magic and of sacred medicine. First, the evil spirit of the Wadu must be commanded to leave your body. The priest takes a fresh papyrus scroll from a shelf. It is covered in the beautiful, intricate, and magical script of the hieroglyphs. He unrolls it and, in a low, powerful, and hypnotic voice, he begins to chant a great and ancient incantation. He is speaking directly to the sickness. He is commanding the Wadu, in the holy and powerful names of the great gods Ra and Osiris, to depart from your flesh, to retreat back into the darkness of the underworld from which it came. When the long, magical incantation is complete, the spiritual battle has been won. Now, the physical remedy must be applied to the vessel that the demon has abandoned. The priest prepares his poultice. It is not the simple dung and herb mixture of the village. This is a powerful, sacred, and prescribed concoction, a recipe taken from the holy medical texts. He takes a handful of the substance from a clay pot. It is the dried, powdered dung of a crocodile. The crocodile, he explains, is a creature of immense and terrifying power, a living god of the river. Its dung, therefore, is imbued with that divine power and will frighten away any lingering traces of the Wadu's evil spirit. To this, he adds a scoop of thick, dark honey, which is a sweet and pleasing offering to the gods who will now protect your wound. He mixes these ingredients together, his hands murmuring another, quieter prayer, creating a thick, dark, and foul-smelling paste. You are a man of the 21st century. Your mind, what is left of it in the fog of your fever, is screaming. It is screaming that to pack an open, infected, and gangrenous wound with a mixture of animal feces is not just wrong. It is an act of almost unimaginable medical malpractice. It is the single worst, most catastrophic thing you could possibly do. But you are helpless. You are weak. And in this world, this is not malpractice. This is science. This is the will of the gods. The priest is confident. Your hosts are hopeful. You are utterly, terrifyingly alone with your useless, modern knowledge. He takes a great dollop of the foul, magical, and deeply unhygienic paste, and he plasters it directly into and over your open, weeping wound. He then binds your entire hand in a fresh, clean strip of linen. The cure is complete. The priest assures you that the spell will drive out the last of the demon, and that the sacred poultice will protect the flesh. You have been treated. You have been saved. You are helped to your feet, and you stumble from the temple, your hand now a throbbing, swollen club, packed with a magical dung-based time bomb. The fever rages within you. The pain is a monstrous living thing, and you know, with an absolute and soul-shattering certainty, that the priest's holy cure has just sealed your fate. You stumble away from the temple, your body a vessel of fever, your hand a throbbing, swollen club, now packed with what your modern mind can only recognize as a septic bomb of crocodile dung and false hope. Your hosts, a grim-faced man and his weeping wife, are half-carrying you, guiding your unsteady feet back through the chaotic, sun-drenched streets of Thebes. Your only desire is to collapse onto your reed mat, to surrender to the coming delirium. But the city is not finished with its lessons for you. As you pass through the edge of the great marketplace, a new sound cuts through the usual, vibrant din of commerce. It is a sound of anger, of accusation. A crowd has gathered, forming a tight, curious circle. A fat, prosperous-looking merchant, his face red with fury, is shouting, his finger pointed at a young boy who cannot be more than 10 years old. The boy is rail-thin, his loincloth a tattered rag, his face a mask of pure, terrified denial. "Thief!" the merchant bellows, his voice a great booming instrument of outrage. "He stole a loaf of bread from my stall. I saw him with my own eyes." "No, master, I swear by the gods, I did not," the boy cries, his own voice a thin, reedy wail of panic. Your small party comes to a halt, unable to push through the dense crowd. And so, you become a helpless, feverish witness to the swift, brutal, and deeply efficient machinery of Egyptian justice. There is no talk of the trial. There are no constables to gather evidence. 2 local guards, Magi men with broad shoulders and the casual, weary authority of those who deal with the city's daily filth, push their way through the crowd. They do not ask for witnesses. They do not search for the missing loaf of bread. They simply seize the boy. He struggles for a moment, a frantic bird-like thrashing, but he is no match for the 2 large men. They drag him to the center of the clearing. One of them produces a short length of rope. With a practiced, impersonal efficiency, they force the boy to lie on his stomach on the hard, dusty ground. They bind his ankles together. The other guard produces a simple, fearsome-looking wooden stalk, 2 pieces of wood with holes for the ankles, and clamps it shut, immobilizing the boy completely. Then, they lift his bound feet into the air. This is the bastinado. It is not just a punishment. It is an instrument of investigation. It is a tool for extracting the truth. One of the guards takes a long, flexible, but brutally hard palm wood cane. He tests its weight in his hand, a gesture you have seen 1,000 times in your own world in the hands of a craftsman testing a tool. He takes his position. "Did you steal the bread, boy?" The other guard asks, his voice a flat, unemotional drone. "No," the boy sobs. "I swear." The first blow falls. The sound is a sharp, wet, and sickening smack as the cane strikes the bare soles of the boy's feet. The boy's body convulses, and a high-pitched scream of pure, unadulterated agony is torn from his throat. You, with your modern mind, are frozen in horror. This is not justice. This is torture, being performed in broad daylight, in the middle of a busy street, as a public spectacle. You look at the crowd. They are not protesting. They are not turning away in disgust. They are watching with a kind of grim, detached interest. For them, this is a normal and necessary part of their world. It is how order is maintained. It is how the truth is found. "Confess, thief!" the guard shouts over the boy's screams. Smack. The second blow falls. Smack. The third. The fourth. The sound is a relentless, brutal rhythm. The boy's screams dissolve into a continuous, desperate, and almost inhuman wail of pain. You are filled with a profound and nauseating sense of your own powerlessness. You are a helpless witness to this act of casual brutality. But more than that, you are struck by the horrifying logic of it all. In your world, the truth is a thing to be discovered through evidence, through reason, through argument. In this world, the truth is not discovered, it is produced. It is a thing that is beaten out of the flesh. The concept of innocent until proven guilty does not exist here. Guilt is assumed, and the purpose of the trial is simply to secure the confession. After a dozen blows, the boy's feet are a swollen and bloody mess. His spirit is broken. "Yes," he finally shrieks, his voice a shattered, weeping ruin. "Yes, I took it. I took the bread. I confess. By the gods, please stop." The beating ceases instantly. The guard with the cane lowers his weapon. The confession has been secured. Justice has been served. The boy, now sobbing uncontrollably from a mixture of pain and relief, is unbound. He cannot stand. He is sentenced on the spot by the merchant to a year of servitude in his own household to pay for the crime he may or may not have actually committed. The dispute is resolved. Order has been restored. The crowd, its brief, brutal entertainment over, begins to disperse. The merchants returning to their stalls, the shoppers to their business. You are led away from the scene by your host, your mind reeling. You have seen how your own body is at the mercy of a flawed and dangerous medical system. And now you have seen that your rights, your very personhood, are equally at the mercy of a legal system where truth is not a matter of evidence, but a simple and brutal calculation of how much pain your body can endure. This is another, and perhaps more profound reason why you, a man of a different and more compassionate age, would not survive. You are led away from the brutal, casual theater of the marketplace justice. Your mind a reeling chaos of pain, fever, and a profound cultural shock. The image of the boy's bloody feet, the sound of his screams, the grim, satisfied look on the merchant's face. It is all a testament to a world whose fundamental rules you do not understand. You finally arrive back at the small, dark, mud brick hut that has become your prison, and you collapse onto your reed mat, your body a useless. Shivering and agonized wait. The afternoon wears on. The sun, a merciless god in its own right, beats down on the flat roof of the hut, turning the small, single room into a stifling, suffocating oven. The air is thick, hot, and smells of dust and of the foul, sweet stench that is now beginning to rise from the wound on your hand. You are adrift on a black, hot sea of fever, your consciousness a flickering, unreliable flame. But as you lie there, you become aware of a new and even more pervasive source of stress. It is not the physical pain of your hand, nor the weakness of your fever. It is the atmosphere in the hut itself. It is a thick, almost tangible, and deeply suffocating blanket of pure religious fear. You have already survived the invisible monsters in the water, the abrasive grit in the bread, the disease in the dust, and the burning fire of the sun. Now you must confront the most powerful and most inescapable danger of all in ancient Egypt, the constant, unwavering, and deeply paranoid gaze of the gods. In your modern world, you are accustomed to a universe governed by laws of nature, by cause and effect, by a degree of rational predictability. This world is not like that. This world is a magical battleground. You understand now that for the people who live here, there is no such thing as an accident. There is no such thing as coincidence. Every single event, from the great life-giving flood of the Nile down to the stumbling of a man on his own doorstep, is a direct and meaningful message from the vast, complex, and deeply unpredictable world of the gods, the spirits, and the vengeful dead. To live in this world is to live in a state of constant, unrelenting, and deeply stressful vigilance. It is to be a detective, constantly searching for omens, for signs, for the hidden meaning in the fabric of everyday life. You are lying on your mat, your body racked with a sudden, violent shiver from your fever. You let out a small, involuntary sneeze. The woman of the house, your host's wife, who is sitting in the corner, gasps. Her eyes go wide with a genuine, palpable fear. She immediately begins to murmur a short, frantic prayer, a magical incantation to ward off evil. You, with your modern mind, see a simple physiological reflex. She sees a moment of profound spiritual peril, a moment when your mouth and nose were open, an unguarded gateway through which a malevolent demon, a Necher-Ah, could have entered your body and taken root. Her husband, the man who has been your guide, returns from his day's labor. He enters the hut, and his foot catches on the raised threshold, causing him to stumble. He does not curse his own clumsiness. A look of pure, cold terror passes over his face. He believes this is a terrible omen, a sign from the household gods that some great misfortune is about to befall his family. And he looks at you, the sick and possibly cursed stranger lying on his floor, and you can see the dawning of a new and terrible suspicion in his eyes. The wife speaks in a low, worried whisper of a dream she had last night, a dream of a great black serpent, and the rest of the evening is now consumed by a quiet, terrified debate. What did it mean? Was it the great evil serpent Apep, a sign of chaos and destruction? Or was it the goddess Wadjet, the cobra who protects the pharaoh, a sign of divine protection? The fate of their entire family seems to hang on the correct interpretation of this simple, subconscious vision. You are living in a world of pure, suffocating paranoia. Every mundane event is freighted with a terrifying cosmic significance, and your own sickness, which you know to be the simple biological result of a dirty cut, is now being reinterpreted through this magical lens. You are no longer just an unfortunate guest who has suffered an accident. You are a source of divine displeasure. You are a vessel of bad luck. What have you done, they are now silently wondering, to anger the gods so greatly? Did you forget to make an offering at a local shrine? Did you speak a god's name in vain? Your illness is not a medical problem. It is a spiritual crime, and they are now trapped in the chamber with the criminal. In the corner of the hut, you see the small household shrine. It is a simple, humble thing, a small niche in the mud brick wall that holds a few crude and smoke-blackened clay figurines. You recognize the squat, dwarf-like form of Bes, the grotesque but benevolent god who protects the home from evil spirits and snakes. And you see the strange, hybrid figure of Taweret, the goddess of childbirth, with the head of a hippopotamus, the legs of a lion, and the back of a crocodile. Before these strange, primitive-looking gods, there is a small offering, a piece of your own gritty bread, and a small puddle of the sour beer. Your hosts are constantly engaged in a never-ending negotiation with the unseen world, a daily effort of prayer, of offerings, of desperate, hopeful bargaining. You lie on your mat, your hand a universe of fire, your body a furnace of fever. But the physical torment is now joined by a new and even more profound psychological stress. You are in a world where a sneeze can be a demonic invasion, where a dream can be a prophecy, where a stumble can be a divine warning, and your own, simple and now almost certainly fatal infection is seen as a just and terrible punishment from the gods. You would not just die from the physical realities of ancient Egypt. You would be driven mad by the sheer, crushing, and inescapable weight of its spiritual anxieties. You are a prisoner of the fever. You spend a long, hot afternoon in a state of semi-conscious delirium, drifting in and out of terrifying, fragmented dreams. The cool poultice on your hand, packed with crocodile dung and the priest healer's magic, has done nothing to quell the fire within. The throbbing ache in your arm is a constant, agonizing rhythm, and the red lines of the poison continue their slow, inexorable march up your arm. As the sun begins to set, the oppressive, suffocating heat of the small, windowless hut becomes unbearable. Your hostess, seeing the sweat pouring from your body and the wild, unfocused look in your eyes, decides that you need air. With the help of her husband, they lift your weak, trembling body and half carry you out of the hut and down the short, dusty path to the banks of the great river. The evening air is a blessing. A cool, gentle breeze is coming off the water, a soft and welcome relief on your burning skin. The world, which was a harsh white glare of sun and dust just an hour ago, is now being painted in the magnificent, beautiful, and deeply peaceful colors of an Egyptian sunset. The sky is a symphony of soft orange, of deep purple, of a delicate rosy pink. The Nile itself is a vast, calm, and majestic presence, its surface a sheet of polished, dark glass that reflects the beautiful, dying light of the sky. It is a scene of the most profound and almost holy tranquility. It is the beautiful, serene, and timeless Egypt from the paintings. And it is a complete and utter lie. You are propped up against the trunk of a palm tree at the river's edge. You watch the life of the village unfold. You see a group of women and older children who have come down to the water's edge to wash their clothes and to fill their heavy clay jars with water for the night. They are laughing and talking, their voices a pleasant, musical sound in the quiet evening air. A group of small, naked children are splashing and playing in the shallows, their joyful shouts echoing across the water. It is an idyllic, peaceful scene, and your modern mind, your mind from a world where nature has been tamed, is momentarily lulled into a sense of peace. And then it happens. It is not a dramatic, cinematic event. It is a thing of horrifying, almost silent and breathtaking speed. One of the women, who is standing knee-deep in the water, a little further out than the others, suddenly cries out. It is not a loud scream. It is a short, sharp, and instantly choked-off cry of pure, surprised terror. The surface of the calm, placid river beside her explodes. It is not a splash. It is a violent eruption of dark water, of thrashing foam, and of something else. Something long, green, and impossibly powerful. You see, for a fraction of a second, the great, log-like head of a massive Nile crocodile, its jaws clamped shut on the woman's leg. And then she is gone. There is a moment of violent, churning chaos in the water, a thrashing that is both powerful and mercifully brief. And then there is only the gentle, lapping sound of the spreading ripples and a single, overturned water jar, bobbing gently in the current, its journey and its owners, now at an end. The other women on the riverbank scream, a chorus of high-pitched, terrified wails. They snatch up their children from the shallows and scramble back from the water's edge, their faces masks of pure primal horror. But you also see something else in their reaction. A kind of grim, fatalistic acceptance. There is no talk of a hunt. There is no cry for vengeance. The crocodile, the great and ancient god of the river, has taken its tribute. This is the price of living so close to the great, life-giving, and ever-hungry deity. This is the river's tax. Your own heart is a frantic, hammering drum in your chest. You are filled with a profound and nauseating horror. You have just witnessed a human being, a living, breathing woman, being violently and casually erased from the world. And the lesson is not yet over. Further out, in the center of the great river, a small fishing boat, a simple skiff made of bound papyrus reeds, is making its slow way home. You see the dark, shiny humps of a pod of hippopotamuses surfacing nearby. In your world, the hippo is a gentle, almost comical giant. You are about to learn the brutal African truth. A great bull hippo, a creature the size of a small wagon, suddenly surfaces directly beside the fragile boat. It opens its mouth in a massive, territorial yawn, a display of huge, yellowed, and tusk-like teeth. It is not hunting. It is simply annoyed by the presence of the small boat in its domain. With a single, casual, and almost lazy-looking toss of its massive head, it strikes the side of the papyrus skiff. The boat is thrown into the air, and it overturns, spilling its two occupants into the dark, crocodile-infested water. The natural world of ancient Egypt, you now understand, is not a beautiful garden. It is a constant, red-toothed, and utterly unsentimental war for survival. The river, the very source of all life in this land, is also a hunting ground for monstrous, prehistoric predators who kill not out of malice, but out of a simple, honest, and terrifying instinct. You are filled with a new and more complete understanding of your own predicament. You have been so consumed by the invisible threats, the parasites, the bacteria, the germs, that you had almost forgotten the visible ones. You now see that the people of this world are living under a state of perpetual siege, attacked from every possible angle. The water will poison you from within. The sun will burn you from without. The bread will grind you down. The law will break you. The gods will torment you with their inscrutable winds. And the river will simply and casually eat you. Your host helps you to your feet as the full darkness of the night descends. The beautiful, peaceful sunset over the Nile is a lie. The river is a beautiful, smiling monster, and it is always hungry. You are led back from the riverbank, your mind a reeling chaos of the evening's horrors. The beautiful, serene, and treacherous Nile, with its smiling, monstrous jaws, is now hidden by the darkness of the night. You are returned to the small, smoky, and suffocating confines of the mud brick hut. Your host helps you lie back down on your reed mat. Your fever, which had briefly seemed to cool in the evening breeze, now returns with a vengeance, a raging, internal fire that seems to draw strength from the gathering darkness. The day's long and brutal series of trials is over. Now there is only the night, and the small domestic rituals that precede it. The woman of the house, your host's wife, moves to the hearth. It is time for the evening meal. You have no appetite. The thought of food is a nauseating prospect to a body that is already churning with fever and pain. But you know you must eat. Your modern mind, for all its terror, still understands a basic biological truth. Your body is fighting a massive systemic infection, and it needs fuel for that fight. To not eat is to surrender. The meal is a simple, humble pottage, the staple food of the common people. You watch as the woman prepares it. She takes a handful of dried lentils from a clay jar and a scoop of barley. She adds these to a pot of the same silty, palisite-filled Nile water that you were forced to drink this morning. To this, she adds the centerpiece of the meal, a few precious, ragged chunks of salted, dried fish. For flavor, she throws in a roughly chopped onion. The pot is placed on the embers of the dung-fueled fire to simmer. It is a picture of simple, domestic life, a scene that has been repeated in this land for 3,000 years. But you, a man from the future, you see it through a different and far more terrified lens. Your mind is not on the meal, but on the secret, invisible history of its ingredients. You think of the fish. It was likely caught days ago in the hot sun. It was gutted, salted, and then left to dry on a rooftop, exposed to the air, to the dust, and to the constant buzzing. Fecal-footed attention of the city's plague of flies. The salt has preserved it, yes, but you know that it has not made it clean. You think of the lentils and the barley. They have been stored for months in a clay pot, in this warm, humid hut, a perfect breeding ground for mold and weevils. You know, with the chilling certainty of your modern scientific knowledge, that in a world without refrigeration, without sealed packaging, without any concept of food safety, every single meal is a gamble. Every bite of food is a potential vector for a new and different kind of sickness. The stew is ready. The woman ladles the thick, brownish, and vaguely fishy-smelling pottage into your wooden bowl. She hands it to you. You look down at it, and you are faced with yet another of this world's impossible choices. Your body, weak and ravaged by the infection in your hand, desperately needs the calories and the protein in this bowl to survive the night. But your mind, your cursed and all-knowing mind, knows that this very stew, this supposed source of strength, is a perfect, lukewarm, and welcoming environment for a host of invisible bacterial monsters. You know that it is very likely teeming with salmonella, with botulism, with a dozen other microscopic killers that can bring on a swift, violent, and agonizingly painful death. You look at your host family. They take their bowls and they eat hungrily, their faces showing only a simple gratitude for a hot meal at the end of a long day. For them, a slightly off, overly pungent taste in the fish is normal. For them, a sudden violent bout of vomiting and diarrhea is not a sign of food poisoning. It is a normal and accepted part of life, a brief and unpleasant visitation from a minor demon or an angry god. You take your first, hesitant spoonful of the stew. The taste is what you would expect, a salty, mushy, and largely flavorless gruel. You force yourself to swallow, and you pray. You pray that your already overburdened immune system can handle this new internal assault. You eat half the bowl, and then you can eat no more. You lie back on your mat, your stomach now a churning, anxious knot. The night wears on. The fever in your hand continues its relentless, fiery assault. But now, a new and different kind of discomfort begins to stir in your belly. A low, gurgling cramp. A wave of nausea that makes your head swim. The stew was tainted. The rest of the night is a new and deeply undignified kind of hell. You are racked with violent stomach cramps, with waves of nausea, with bouts of explosive, watery diarrhea that leave you weak, shaking, and profoundly humiliated. Your host's wife tries to help, offering you another cup of the filthy river water, a treatment that you know will only make the sickness worse. Your body is now a battleground on two fronts. The great, systemic, and potentially fatal infection from the simple cut in your hand is raging in your blood. And now, a second, acute, and equally dangerous sickness from the food you have eaten is raging in your gut. You lie on your mat in the darkness, a pathetic, shivering, and degraded creature. You are burning with fever. Your hand is a club of fire, and your stomach is a knot of pure, churning misery. You realize with a final, devastating clarity, the true, brutal genius of this ancient world's lethality. It is a perfect, self-reinforcing system of death. The parasites in the water weaken you. The grit in the bread wears you down. The sun tries to kill you. The medicine poisons you. The law tortures you. The gods terrify you. The animals try to eat you. And the very food that is meant to give you the strength to survive it all is, itself, just another, faster way to die. You are a shipwreck. The long night is a blur of agonizing stomach cramps, of violent purging sickness, and of a fever that burns away the last of your strength. Your body is now a battleground on two fronts. The hot, septic fire from the infected wound on your hand is a raging inferno, and the new, churning, and debilitating sickness in your gut, a gift from last night's tainted meal, is a raging flood. You are being consumed from within, and you are losing. As the sun rises, casting its indifferent golden light into your small, foul-smelling hut, a new and even more immediate enemy emerges: thirst. The violent sickness of the night has wrung every last drop of moisture from your body. Your mouth is a dry, cracked desert. Your head pounds with the brutal, percussive rhythm of a dehydration headache. Your very blood feels thick and slow in your veins. Your hostess, her face a mask of pity and fear, approaches you with a cup. It is filled with the cool, cloudy, and life-giving water from the Great Nile. And you recoil in horror. You push her hand away with what little strength you have left, a weak, pathetic gesture. No, you manage to rasp, your voice a dry, scratchy whisper. She looks at you, her expression one of pure, uncomprehending confusion. To refuse water in this state is to refuse life itself. But you, with the terrible curse of your modern knowledge, you know the truth. You know that the cool, inviting water she offers is a lie. You know that it is a living soup of the very same invisible monsters that are likely now at war in your own churning gut. To drink it would be to pour oil on a raging fire, to invite a fresh legion of bacteria and parasites into a body that has already fallen. You are now in the grip of the ultimate brutal paradox of this ancient world. You are dying of thirst, and the only water available to you is a poison that will make you die even faster. Seeing your refusal, your host, the man of the house, has a new idea. His face lights up with a flicker of hope. He goes to a large, sealed clay pot in the coolest corner of the hut, and he returns not with a cup, but with a wide, shallow bowl. He fills it with a different liquid. It is not water. It is beer. You look at the bowl and your 21st century mind is filled with a profound sense of revulsion. The thought of drinking alcohol in your current state, with a raging fever and a stomach that feels as though it has been scoured with hot coals, is an absurdity. But then you look closer, and you realize that this is not beer as you know it. It is not a clear, golden, and fizzy liquid. It is a thick, soupy, and entirely opaque gruel, the color and consistency of thin, lumpy porridge. You can see the bits of uncooked grain and crumbled bread floating in it. And it is not served cold, but at room temperature. This is not a recreational beverage. This is a food. You know from your distant memories of history books what you are looking at. This is Henket, the ancient and sacred beer of Egypt. It is the other river that flows through this land, a river of fermented grain that is as fundamental to their civilization as the Nile itself. You have seen the women making it. The process is simple, domestic, and almost magical. They take the coarse, sandy flour of the emmer wheat, and they make two kinds of loaves. One is baked lightly, just enough to form a crust. The other is left raw. They crumble these loaves into a great pot of the silty Nile water, and they simply leave it. The wild yeasts that are ever present in the air of this ancient land descend upon the mixture, and a slow, natural, and bubbling fermentation begins. And in that simple alchemical process, a miracle occurs. The fermentation produces alcohol, and that alcohol, though weak, is a powerful antiseptic. It kills a portion of the dangerous waterborne bacteria that you so rightly fear. The process is a form of accidental, low-technology pasteurization. To drink this beer is not to be perfectly safe, but it is to be safer. But its importance is even greater than that. This thick, soupy, and slightly sour gruel is also a primary source of nutrition. It is liquid bread. It is packed with calories from the grain, and crucially, with the B vitamins from the yeast, nutrients that are otherwise almost entirely absent from the Egyptian diet. The Great Pyramids, the magnificent temples, the entire vast and enduring civilization of ancient Egypt was built and fueled by this strange, thick, and life-giving beer. The wages of the laborers were not paid in coin, but in a daily ration of bread and of henket. Faced with the choice between the certain poison of the water and the safer bet of the beer, you know what you must do. You take the bowl. It smells sour, yeasty, and slightly sweet. You take a sip. The taste is unlike any beer you have ever known. It is thick, lumpy, and has the distinct sour tang of a sourdough starter. It is not refreshing, but it is sustenance. You drink the entire bowl. The thick, nutritious liquid begins to settle your churning stomach. You can feel the calories, the raw energy of the fermented grain, seeping into your exhausted body. The mild alcohol does not make you drunk, but it does seem to dull the sharpest edges of your pain, a gentle, welcome, and temporary anesthetic. You lie back on your mat. You have found one of the great secrets to daily survival in this hostile and dangerous world. You have learned to choose the lesser of two evils. The beer is not a cure. It will not kill the great raging infection in your hand. It will not undo the damage of last night's food poisoning. But it is a momentary truce. It is a source of strength, a small, precious, and sour-tasting fuel that will allow your body to continue its own desperate and ultimately losing battle for just a little while longer. You have drunk the thick, sour, life-giving beer. The immediate, agonizing crisis of your thirst has been abated, and a small, precious store of calories has been delivered to your failing body. You are still profoundly sick, your hand a throbbing ball of fire, your stomach a churning sea of misery, but for a brief, fleeting moment, you have achieved a state of fragile equilibrium. You are no longer actively dying. You are simply lying here. The day wears on. The sun, a silent and merciless god, beats down on the flat roof of the hut, and the air inside is a thick, hot, and suffocating blanket. You drift in and out of a shallow, feverish sleep. In your moments of lucidity, you are a silent witness to the quiet, domestic rhythm of your host family's life. The woman grinds the sandy grain for tomorrow's bread. The children play a quiet game with smooth river stones on the floor. Your host, the man of the house, sits near you in the relative cool of the doorway, mending a broken fishing net. He sees your eyes are open, and he begins to speak. His voice is a low, gentle, and somber murmur. He is not a cruel man. He is a good man, trying to offer what little comfort he can to the strange, sick, and possibly dying foreigner who has fallen under his care. But the comfort he offers is a strange and deeply unsettling thing to your modern mind. He does not speak of your recovery. He does not offer you false hopes of healing. He speaks with a calm, practical, and almost cheerful matter-of-factness of the single most important subject in his entire world. He speaks of death. To you, a man of the 21st century, death is a terrible and final end, a topic to be avoided. a grim reality to be fought against with all the power of science and medicine. But to this man, to every man, woman, and child in this ancient and deeply pious land, death is not an end. It is a beginning. Your life on this earth, this brief, fleeting, and often miserable journey, is merely a short and troublesome prelude to your true, glorious, and eternal life in the world to come. And therefore, the single most important and most all-consuming work of your life is not the living of it, but the preparation for your own death. As you lie there, your body burning with fever, your host begins to confide in you, man to man, about his own great and enduring life project, his tomb. He tells you, with a craftsman's quiet pride, of the small, simple tomb he is slowly, painstakingly carving out for himself and his family in the great, silent cliffs of the Theban necropolis on the west bank of the river. He explains that he spends one day in every 10, his designated day of rest from his labor at the temple. Not in leisure, but in this slow, sacred work. He describes the process, the chipping away at the limestone, the slow hollowing out of the small, dark chambers where his family's spirits, their Ka and their Ba, will reside for all of eternity. He speaks not of the cost of his children's education, but of the immense and deeply worrisome cost of a proper burial. He tells you of the beautiful, painted wooden coffin he is saving for, of the years of his life it will take to earn enough silver to pay the coffin makers for their skilled work. He speaks of the embalmers, the priests of Anubis, and the different levels of their service. A cheap mummification, he explains with a shudder, is a terrible and risky thing, a process that might leave your body improperly preserved, your spirit unable to recognize its own earthly vessel. He is saving for the second tier of service, a respectable and thorough process that will guarantee his eternal integrity. He gets up and walks to a small wooden chest in the corner of the hut. He opens it and brings something back to show you. It is a small, crude, and vaguely human-shaped figure, carved from a piece of soft limestone. It is a shabti. "I have made 17 of these so far," he says, his voice a mixture of pride and anxiety. "I need 365, one for every day of the year." He explains that in the afterlife, the gods will call upon your spirit to perform labor, to till the fields of the underworld. But if you have these small, magical servants, you can send them to do the work in your place. They are your eternal get-out-of-labor clause, the creation or the purchase of a full set of these figures is one of the greatest financial burdens of a common man's life. You lie there, listening to this good, simple man speak with such intense, practical, and worried detail about the logistical and financial preparations for his own death, and you are struck by the profound, almost unbridgeable chasm between his worldview and your own. In your world, a man's life work is to build a home, a business, a future for his children in this world. In this man's world, his true and most important life's work is to build a home, a staff, and a future for himself in the next. They will live their entire, brief, and often miserable lives in this simple, cramped, and smoky mud brick hut, so that they can afford to spend an eternity in a magnificent and well-staffed tomb. And then, a new and different kind of horror begins to dawn in your fevered mind. You are a stranger here. You are an alien from a different world. You have no tomb waiting for you in the sacred cliffs of the West Bank. You have no coffin on order. You have no collection of shabtis. You have no contract with the priests of Anubis. You realize, with a chilling metaphysical terror, that if you die here, in this hut, you will not just die. You will die incorrectly. Your body will be buried in a simple, shallow grave in the desert sand. Your spirit will have no home to return to, no offerings of food and beer to sustain it. It will be a lost, wandering, and hungry ghost, doomed to fade into a second and more permanent kind of death. Your host, in his attempt to offer you the comfort of a shared and universal human concern, has just revealed to you the true and final horror of your situation. It is not that you are going to die. It is that in this world that is so completely and profoundly obsessed with the art of dying properly, you are going to die all wrong. You lie on your mat, a prisoner of your own failing body and of your own terrifying modern knowledge. The physical agony of your infected hand is a roaring fire that consumes your arm. The sickness in your gut is a churning, nauseating sea. And your mind is now a dark and haunted landscape, filled with a new and profound metaphysical terror. You are not just a man dying of a physical ailment. You are a man whose eternal soul, his ka and his ba, is now facing the prospect of a second and far more permanent death. Lost and forgotten in a land that is not his own. As the sun sets, a brief and deceptive peace seems to settle over the land. The brutal, oppressive heat of the day finally begins to recede, replaced by a cool, almost pleasant evening air. The sky, which was a harsh white glare, is now a beautiful, soft, and star-dusted canopy of deep indigo. From the riverbank, you can hear the strange, beautiful, and alien sounds of the Egyptian night, the rhythmic, chirping chorus of the crickets, the deep, croaking call of a bullfrog, and the distant, lonely howl of a jackal from the desert hills. For a moment, it is almost peaceful, and then you begin to hear it. It is a sound that starts almost imperceptibly, a faint, high-pitched, and almost musical humming on the very edge of your hearing. It is a sound that seems to come from nowhere, and from everywhere, at once. You watch as your host, the man of the house, rises from the seat. His face, which was relaxed in the cool of the evening, is now set with a new, familiar, and weary anxiety. He goes to the hearth fire and begins to build it up, but he does not use the dry, clean burning wood. He adds green, leafy branches and pieces of still, damp animal dung. A thick, acrid, and eye-watering smoke begins to fill the small, single-roomed hut. The humming grows louder. It is no longer a faint, distant sound. It is a close, insistent, and deeply menacing presence. It is not one sound, but a million tiny individual sounds, all weaving together to form a single, unified, and all-encompassing note of pure, predatory intent. It is the sound of the mosquitoes. They rise with the coming of the dusk, a great dark and living cloud emerging from the stagnant, marshy pools at the edge of the Great Nile, where they have been breeding in their millions. They are the true, undisputed, and eternal masters of the Egyptian night. They descend upon your small hut, and the assault begins. It is a new and different kind of torment. The sun was a brutal, honest, and visible enemy. This is a subtle, insidious, and invisible one. You can hear them, a high-pitched, maddening, and inescapable whine right by your ear. You can feel them, the light, tickling, and almost imperceptible touch of their tiny feet as they land on every square inch of your exposed, feverish skin. And then you feel the small, sharp, and intensely irritating sting of their bites. You are too weak, too sick to properly defend yourself. You twitch, you flail a weak hand, but it is a useless gesture. For every one you manage to swat, 100 more descend to take its place. The smoke from the fire is the family's only defense. It is a thick, choking, and almost unbreathable fog that makes your lungs burn and your eyes stream with tears. But it is a necessary evil. The smoke is a fragile, chemical shield against the far greater evil of the biting insects. It helps. It drives the thickest clouds of them away, but it does not stop them all. A few, determined individuals always find their way through the haze. You lie on your mat. Your body now a new and different kind of battleground. The raging infection is the war within. And this is the war from without. Your skin, already hot and sensitive from the fever, is now a landscape of 100 tiny, new, and infuriatingly itchy fires. But the true horror of this plague is not the noise, nor the bites, nor the itch. The true horror, once again, is your own cursed modern knowledge. You look at these small, delicate, and elegant insects, and you do not just see an annoyance. You see a vector. You know that inside the bodies of many of these female mosquitoes, a secret and far more deadly passenger is waiting. You know that they are carrying the Plasmodium parasite, the microscopic and devastating cause of the disease you know as malaria. The people of this land know of the sickness, of course. They call it Ot. They know it comes in the hot season. They know it is associated with the swamps and the bad, misty air of the night, the miasma, but they do not understand the true cause. They do not see the connection between the bite of this tiny insect and the terrible, recurring fevers, the bone-shaking chills, and the slow, anemic, and often fatal sickness that follows. Their cure for it is, as always, a combination of useless herbal remedies and desperate magical incantations. You, however, know the truth, and so, as you lie there, feeling the sharp, stinging pricks on your skin, you are not just being bitten, you are being injected. You can almost feel the tiny, invisible parasites being pumped directly into your bloodstream. A new, silent, and incredibly efficient army that will now begin its own quiet, methodical assault on your liver and your red blood cells. You are filled with a new and almost comical level of despair. The sheer, overwhelming, and multi-pronged lethality of this ancient world is a thing of awesome and terrible beauty. You are already dying of a raging bacterial infection from a simple cut. And now you are almost certainly being simultaneously infected with a parasitic, blood-borne disease for which there is no cure. You lie in the hot, smoky, and suffocating darkness of the hut, the air a thick, choking fog of dung smoke and the high-pitched, maddening whine of 1,000,000 tiny flying assassins. Your body is a map of itchy, painful welts. The day was a brutal ordeal of heat and labor. The night is a suffocating torment of smoke and disease. You have learned another final, terrible lesson about this ancient world. There is no safe place, and there is no safe time. There is only the long, slow, and losing battle for survival. You have survived another night, if the wretched, shivering, and semi-conscious state you now inhabit can be called survival. The plague of mosquitoes has retreated with the dawn, leaving your skin a hot, itchy, and swollen landscape of painful welts. The sickness in your gut has subsided into a low, churning misery, but the fire in your hand has grown, the infection now a monstrous, throbbing entity that has claimed your entire arm, and the fever is a relentless, baking heat behind your eyes. You are dying. You know this with a calm, detached certainty. You are a passenger in a failing machine, and you are simply observing the final, catastrophic breakdown. But the woman of the house, your hostess, has not yet surrendered. She is a creature of a different world, a world of gods and of magic, and her hope is a stubborn and resilient thing. She looks at your wretched state, at the sweat pouring from your body, at the unfocused, delirious look in your eyes, and she makes a final, desperate, and deeply pious decision. The folk remedies have failed. The priest-healer's magic and his disgusting poultice have failed. There is only one source of healing left. She must bring you to the god himself. She will take you to the temple, not for a consultation with the priest, for you have already done that. She will take you, the sick and the dying, and she will place you before the temple gates, in the direct presence of the god's house. in the hope that the deity, seeing your suffering, will take pity on you and grant you a miracle. It is an act of pure, simple, and absolute faith, and it is a terrible, catastrophic, and almost fatal mistake. With the help of her husband, she lifts your weak, trembling body from the reed mat. You are a dead weight in their arms, your legs barely able to function. You are half carried, half dragged out of the hut and into the already hot morning air. The journey to the local temple is a short one. A slow, stumbling, and agonizing procession through the dusty, filthy streets. You are a specter at your own funeral. You arrive at the outer courtyard of the temple. It is a different world. The chaotic, smelly, and refuse-strewn reality of the street gives way to a place of clean, quiet, and ordered serenity. The ground here is paved with smooth, clean flagstones. The air smells of the incense that burns on the great altar. It is a holy place, a pure place. Your hostess, her face a mask of pious hope, begins to lead you towards the great pylon gate that leads to the inner sanctum of the temple. She is going to lay you at the very feet of the god. And it is here that her act of desperate, loving kindness collides with the great, unbending, and utterly merciless iron wall of Egyptian religious law. As you approach the great gate, a priest, a tall, imposing man in a clean white linen robe, emerges from the shadows. He sees you. He sees your stumbling gait, your sweat-soaked, filthy clothes, the swollen and discolored claw that was once your hand, and his face, which was a mask of serene, priestly calm, is instantly transformed into a mask of pure, shocked, and unadulterated horror. He does not rush forward to help. He leaps back as if he has just seen a venomous serpent. He raises a hand, not in a gesture of blessing, but to ward off a great and terrible evil. "Unclean!" he shrieks, his voice a high, piercing cry of pure religious fury. "You dare to bring this vessel of filth, this house of corruption, to the very gates of the God's own home. Sacrilege, abomination. You in your modern mind do not understand at first. You are seeing a sick man being brought to a place of healing, but the priest is seeing something entirely different. In his world, the world of ancient Egypt, the concept of ritual purity, of Wabet, is absolute. The gods are pure, perfect, and orderly beings. Their home, the temple, must therefore be a place of absolute purity. To enter it, you must be pure. And sickness, especially a sickness like yours, a sickness with a weeping, festering wound, with a raging fever, with the uncontrolled purging of the body, is the very definition of impurity. It is a physical manifestation of the victory of chaos over order. It is a sign of the god's displeasure. Your well-meaning hostess has not brought a patient to a hospital. In the eyes of the priest, she has brought a bucket of filth, a container of demonic corruption, and she was about to throw it into a pristine, holy sanctuary. The priest's shouts raise the alarm. Other temple guards and priests come running. A small, horrified crowd begins to gather. You and your hosts are now the center of a scene of public religious scandal. The consequences are swift and severe. Your host and his wife are immediately seized by the guards. The high priest of the temple is summoned. He listens to the story, his face a mask of grim, unforgiving judgment. He sentences your hosts on the spot for their terrible, ignorant act of sacrilege, for attempting to bring a thing of such profound impurity to the threshold of the god. They must pay a massive fine to the temple, a fine of silver and of grain, a price that you know will utterly and completely ruin them. They will have to sell their house, their goat, everything they own, to pay for the expensive rituals that will now be required to repurify the ground you have tainted with your presence. And you are now something new. You are no longer just a sick and dying foreigner. You are a marked man. You are a source of ritual contamination. You are a pariah, a man who has, through his very existence, offended the gods of this land. The neighbors, who might have offered you a word of pity before, will now shun you, will close their doors to you, will see you as a walking vessel of bad luck and divine anger. You are dragged away from the temple gate by your now despairing host, and you are cast back out into the filth of the street. You have been rejected, not just by the priest, but by the God himself. The last door of hope has not just been closed. It has been slammed and bolted in your face. You have survived the parasites, the sun, the law, and the insects. But you have now fallen victim to the most powerful and most unforgiving force of all in this world. It's rigid, absolute, and utterly merciless religious law. It is a form of social death, a spiritual damnation that has arrived even before your own inevitable physical one. You are cast out. You are a thing of filth, a source of spiritual contamination, a man who has been publicly and ritually rejected by the gods of this land. Your hosts, their faces a mask of shame and a new cold resentment, born of the ruin you have brought upon them, drag you back to their small mud brick hut. You are thrown onto your reed mat. You are no longer a guest. You are a burden, a curse, a living ghost haunting their house until the inevitable end. You lie in the hot, suffocating darkness of the hut, adrift on a black sea of fever and pain, and you reflect on the single, brutal, and impossibly short day you have spent in this ancient world. You came here, a man of the future, with a mind full of the grand, visible dangers of ancient Egypt. You are prepared for the things you had seen in books and in films. You feared the great, lurking crocodile in the river. You feared the scorpion under the stone. You feared the swift, brutal justice of the guard's stick. And those dangers you have learned are very, very real. But as you lie here now, your body a losing battleground on a dozen different fronts, you understand the profound and terrible truth of this place. The true, relentless, and most effective killers of the ancient world are not the great, visible monsters. They are the ones you cannot see. Your day has been a long and continuous assault by an army of silent, invisible, and microscopic assassins. It began with the water, the great, beautiful, life-giving Nile. You did not have to fear the crocodile that you saw, the one that took the woman from the riverbank in a terrifying explosion of violence. You should have been afraid of the billions of tiny, fork-tailed schistosoma larvae that were swimming, unseen, in the very cup you drank from. You should have been afraid of the Vibrio cholerae bacteria, the agents of a terrifying and dehydrating death that were a constant, invisible presence in the river that was both the city's drinking fountain and its sewer. The first unseen killer was in your very first drink. It was in the bread, the staff of life. You did not have to fear a thief stealing your meager ration. You should have been afraid of the bread itself, of the microscopic, abrasive, and relentless particles of sand and granite that were ground into the flour from the great stone quairns. The grit that is even now scraping away at the teeth of every man, woman, and child in this kingdom. The unseen agent of a lifetime of abscesses, of infection, of chronic, agonizing pain. The second unseen killer was in your first meal. It was in the air itself. You did not have to fear the crush of the crowd or the kick of a donkey. You should have been afraid of the very dust that you inhaled with every breath you took on the city streets. You know now that this was not just dirt. It was a fine, aerosolized powder of dried, pulverized human and animal waste, a gray mist of bacteria, and the microscopic eggs of intestinal worms. A constant, invisible cloud of pestilence that you breathed directly into your lungs. The third unseen killer was in the air. It was in the simple cut on your hand. The true danger was not the sharp edge of the stone. It was the trillions of Clostridium tetani and Staphylococcus aureus bacteria that were living in the soil, on the stone, and on the filthy rag you used as a bandage. You should have been afraid of the well-meaning kindness of your neighbor, whose offering of mud was not a folk remedy, but a direct septic inoculation. You should have been afraid of the priest healer's magic, of the crocodile dung that was not a holy ward, but a thick, rich, and perfect fertilizer for the garden of bacteria that is now blooming in your flesh. The fourth unseen killer was in the cure. And finally, it was in the night. You did not have to fear the ghosts or the demons that the Egyptians so dreaded. You should have been afraid of the gentle, almost weightless touch of the mosquito, of its high, thin, and almost musical whine. You should have been afraid of its delicate proboscis, which, as it pierced your skin, injected you not with a simple irritant, but with the microscopic Plasmodium parasite, the unseen and beautifully efficient agent of malaria. The fifth unseen killer came to you on silent, buzzing wings. You lie in the darkness, and you finally understand the profound and terrible disconnect between their world and yours. Their entire, complex, and beautiful civilization, their gods, their magic, their medicine. It was all a desperate, elaborate, and deeply intelligent attempt to fight an enemy whose true face they could not even begin to imagine. They fought the great visible symbols of chaos, the serpent Apep, the demon Wadu, but they were being killed, slowly, relentlessly, and efficiently, by an army of creatures so small they were a complete and terrifying mystery. Your own modern knowledge, which you thought would be a shield, has been nothing but a source of torment. It has allowed you to see the true nature of the bullets that are riddling your body, but it has given you no way to stop them. You did not need to fear the jaws of the great beasts in the river. From the moment you took your first drink of water, from the moment you took your first breath of the city's air, you were already a dead man. You have been assaulted all day long by a relentless and inescapable army of microscopic assassins. And you know now that in the ancient world, the greatest and most terrifying monsters were always the ones that were too small to see. You lie on the reed mat in the stifling, smoky darkness of the hut, a man whose body is a losing battleground against a dozen different invisible enemies. The infection in your hand is a throbbing fire. The sickness in your gut is a churning, nauseating sea. The fever is a hot, dry desert wind that is slowly scorching the life from you. Your modern scientific mind has given you the terrible and useless gift of being able to name your assassins: the schistosoma, the Clostridium tetani, the salmonella. But as you lie there, drifting in the gray twilight space between delirium and a horrifying clarity, you begin to understand a new and even more profound truth. Even if you had a body that was miraculously immune to every parasite and every bacterium in this ancient land, you still would not have survived. Because the things that are truly killing you, the things that have been attacking you all day long, are not just the threats to your body. They are the relentless, crushing, and utterly unbearable assaults on your 21st century mind. Your modern soul is simply not built for this world. You think back on the day, and you realize that you have been subjected to a series of psychological tortures, each one designed to break down the very foundations of your modern identity. The first and most profound of these is the absolute and total absence of personal agency. In your world, you are an individual. You have rights. You have choices. You have a voice. In this world, you have learned you are a tool. You spent your day as a piece of property, a conscripted laborer. Your body forced into a state of brutal, meaningless toil under the constant, casual threat of physical violence. Your will was irrelevant. Your fatigue was irrelevant. You were a resource to be used, and if you broke, you would be discarded. This complete and utter powerlessness, the reduction of your very being to a simple unit of labor, is a form of psychological suffocation that your modern individualistic soul cannot endure. Then there is the crushing, inescapable weight of their religion. In your world, faith is a private matter, a source of comfort or a philosophical choice. In this world, it is the very air you breathe, and it is a source of constant, unrelenting, and deeply stressful anxiety. You have spent your day in a world where every single event is a message from the gods, where a stumble is an omen, where a sneeze is a spiritual crisis, where a dream is a prophecy. To live in this state of constant magical interpretation is to live in a state of profound paranoia. The world is not a place of natural laws. It is a sentient and often malevolent entity that is constantly watching, judging, and testing you. This suffocating, all-encompassing superstition is a poison to your rational mind. And then there is the simple, brutal reality of their law. You witnessed the bastinado in the marketplace. You saw a boy being tortured in the street to produce a confession. And you understood the terrible truth of their justice system. In your world, you are protected by a complex and abstract concept, the rule of law, the idea that you are innocent until proven guilty. In this world, there is no such shield. Justice is a thing of physical force. Truth is a product of pain. The knowledge that your body and your rights could be so casually and so publicly violated at any moment, based on a simple accusation, is a source of a constant, low-grade, and deeply corrosive terror. You think of the lack of simple human privacy, the single-roomed hut that you share with an entire family with their animals, the constant, unavoidable presence of other people. In your world, solitude is a right you can choose. In this world, for a common person, it is a luxury that does not exist. And you think of the casual, public, and ever-present reality of brutal death. The woman taken by the crocodile, the fisherman overturned by the hippo, the man who collapsed from the heat. In your world, death is a sanitized, hidden, and medicalized event. In this world, it is a constant, public, and brutal spectacle. The constant exposure to this level of trauma, to the cheapness of human life, is a thing that would slowly, surely grind your modern empathy and your modern sanity into dust. You lie on your mat and you finally understand. The physical afflictions that are currently consuming your body are merely the final, predictable outcome of a much deeper incompatibility. A modern human cannot survive in this world not just because we are physically soft, but because we are psychologically soft. Our minds are built upon a foundation of assumptions, of safety, of reason, of individual rights, of a world that makes a certain kind of logical sense. This world has systematically demolished that foundation, stone by painful stone. The constant fear, the absolute lack of control, the suffocating superstition, and the casual brutality of daily life. It is a poison of its own. It is a slow-acting acid that dissolves the very things that make you who you are. And as you lie there, feeling the fever burn the last of your strength away, you know that even if your body had somehow survived the day, your mind would have been the next casualty. You lie on the reed mat, a broken and feverish ruin, in the corner of a small, dark, mud brick hut. Your body is a raging, losing war on a dozen different fronts. The infection in your hand has turned it into a swollen, black, and useless claw, the fire of it a constant throbbing agony that has consumed your entire arm. The sickness in your gut is a churning sea of misery. The mosquito bites on your skin are 1,000 tiny maddening points of fire. And your mind, your poor, modern and all too knowledgeable mind, has just been subjected to a final, brutal revelation. You are not just physically sick. You are a creature whose very existence is a psychological and spiritual crime in this strange and unforgiving land. There is nothing left to do. There are no more doctors to see, no more remedies to try. You have reached the end, and so you simply lie there, and you watch the day die. The sun, the great, brutal, and merciless enemy that tried to kill you this morning with its oppressive baking heat, now begins its slow, majestic, and beautiful retreat. The light that filters through the low doorway of the hut changes. The harsh, white, and blinding glare of the afternoon softens into a warm, gentle, and almost loving golden hue. The sky, which was a flat and featureless sheet of pale blue, is now a magnificent, painted canvas of deep, impossible colors, of soft, rose-petal pink, of vibrant, fiery orange, of a deep, bruised, and royal purple. The world, which was a place of such harsh, ugly, and brutal reality, has suddenly become a thing of profound and almost heartbreaking beauty. The sounds of the day begin to change too. The sharp, chaotic, and stressful noises of the city, the shouting, the hammering, the braying of donkeys, all begin to fade. They are replaced by the soft, gentle, and ancient sounds of the Egyptian evening. You can hear the distant, happy laughter of children as their day's work ends. You can hear the low, contented mooing of the cattle being brought in from the fields. You can hear the gentle, lapping sound of the great Nile, its voice a soft, eternal whisper in the growing quiet. The air itself changes. The dry, dusty heat of the day is replaced by a cool, clean, and almost caressing evening breeze that drifts in from the river, a small, blessed relief on your burning, feverish skin. Your mind, the frantic, analytical, and terrified modern mind that has been your greatest tormentor all day, finally begins to quiet. The constant, screaming litany of your scientific knowledge, the names of the parasites, the bacteria, the diseases, begins to fade. The complex psychological dread of the gods and the law begins to dissolve. Your mind is too tired. Your body is too broken. There is no energy left for fear. All that is left are the simple, primal senses, the seeing of the impossible, beautiful colors of the sunset, the hearing of the gentle, lapping water, the feeling of the cool, soft breeze. In these final hours, you are no longer a 21st century man trapped in the past. You are simply a creature, a small and dying animal, quietly observing the last beautiful moments of your own existence. Your host family is a quiet, somber presence in the hut. Their anger and their fear of your spiritual contamination have been replaced by a simple human pity. They know you are dying. The woman brings you one last cup, not of water, but of the thick, sour, and life-giving beer. She helps you drink a little. The man sits by the doorway, his silhouette a dark, still shape against the magnificent, dying sky. He says nothing. He is simply keeping a quiet, respectful vigil. The sun finally disappears completely below the western horizon. A deep purple darkness floods the world. Your single, terrible, and impossibly long day in ancient Egypt is at last over. You have, against all odds, survived it. From your first terrifying drink of water in the morning to the last whining mosquito of the night, you have endured. In this moment, breathing. But you know the truth. This is not a victory. This is merely a postponement of the inevitable. You will not survive the night. Your body has been too comprehensively and too efficiently overwhelmed. The sheer, multi-pronged, and relentless hostility of this ancient world has proven to be too much for your modern constitution. Your last lucid thought is one of profound and terrible irony. You came to this world armed with the greatest and most powerful weapon of all, the knowledge of the future. You came with a perfect scientific understanding of the very things that kill the people of this land. But that knowledge was utterly, completely, and pathetically useless. It was a curse. It was a map of a minefield that you were still forced to walk through. You were not killed by the great dramatic dangers you had imagined. You were not eaten by a crocodile. You were not executed by a cruel pharaoh. You were defeated by the small, by the mundane, by the invisible. You were defeated by a single cup of water, by a single loaf of bread, by a single careless cut from a piece of stone. And you were defeated by a world of beliefs and fears that were as real, as solid, and as inescapable as a temple wall. You lie in the darkness. Your breathing is a faint, shallow whisper. You have survived your one day, and it has cost you everything. And so, your one terrible and impossibly long day in ancient Egypt comes to its inevitable, quiet, and septic end. You lie on a reed mat in the darkness, your body consumed by a host of invisible enemies you could see with your mind, but could not fight. Your brief, brutal, and educational journey is over. Let us leave that small, dark, mud-brick hut. Let us leave that poor, doomed traveler to his fate, a fate shared by millions in the ancient world. And let us return to you, here, now, in the quiet, comfortable, and miraculous safety of your own time. Let us replay the day, but through the lens of your own life. You wake up in the morning, and you are thirsty. You walk to your kitchen. You turn a simple handle on a metal tap, and from it flows a stream of clean, clear, cool, and perfectly safe water. You drink a full glass without a single second thought. In that simple, unconscious act, you have just been saved by 100 years of the germ theory of disease, and by a vast, complex, and entirely invisible municipal system of water filtration, purification, and sanitation. You eat your breakfast, perhaps a piece of toast. The bread is soft, white, and completely free of sand. It will not grind your teeth down to the nerves. It will not lead to a lifetime of agonizing abscesses. You have just been saved by the science of modern steel milling and a century of advanced dentistry. You step outside your house to begin your day. The street is paved. The air is clean, or at least it is not a thick, aerosolized cloud of dried, powdered human and animal waste. At some point in the day, a large, noisy truck will come, and with a mechanical and impersonal efficiency, it will magically carry away the refuse of your entire community. You have just been saved by the profound and underappreciated miracle of public sanitation. Imagine now that you suffer the same simple injury. A sharp object slices open the palm of your hand. It is a deep, dirty cut. What do? You do not pack it with dirt or animal dung. You do not wrap it in a filthy rag. You walk to a small, quiet, and unassuming cabinet in your bathroom. You turn on the tap, and you wash the wound with clean water and gentle soap. You open a small plastic tube, and you squeeze out a small amount of an antiseptic cream, a substance of almost unimaginable power, a simple ointment designed to kill the entire invisible army of microscopic monsters that are trying to invade your body. And then you take a small, sterile bandage, a product of a perfectly clean factory, from its paper wrapping, and you cover the wound, sealing it off from the world. This entire boring 2-minute procedure, the clean water, the soap, the antiseptic, the sterile bandage, is a miracle of such profound, life-saving power that it would have been seen by the ancient Egyptians as a form of the most potent and holy magic. And if, by some small chance, the wound were still to become infected, you would not pray to a god or summon a man with a hot iron. You would go to a healer, a doctor, and they would give you a small, simple, and inexpensive piece of paper, a prescription. And you would take that paper to an apothecary, and he would give you a small plastic bottle filled with tiny pills, antibiotics, tiny, targeted, and magical bullets designed with a perfect, scientific knowledge to hunt down and kill the specific bacterial enemy that is raging within you, while leaving you almost entirely unharmed. It is perhaps the single greatest life-saving technology in the history of all humanity. And it is a technology we treat with such casual, everyday indifference that we complain if we have to wait a few minutes to receive it. The final, brutal truth is this: you would not survive a day in ancient Egypt, not because you are weak or foolish or unlucky. You would not survive because you are a creature of this world. You are a creature who has been born into and has been protected from birth by 1,000 invisible miracles of science, of sanitation, of medicine, and of a simple foundational knowledge that they could not even begin to dream of. And yet, they did survive. Not all of them, not for long. The life of a common man or woman in ancient Egypt was a short, brutal, and often painful affair. But enough of them survived. Enough of them endured the parasites, the plagues, the famines, and the endless backbreaking labor. Enough of them survived to build the pyramids. Enough of them survived to create the temples, the art, the knowledge, and the magnificent, enduring, and deeply human civilization that still fills us with a sense of wonder and awe 3,000 years later. Their survival is a testament not to their knowledge, but to their incredible, almost superhuman physical resilience, and to a profound, fatalistic acceptance of a world of constant, unrelenting danger. And now, as we leave that brutal, beautiful, and deeply dangerous world behind, it is time to appreciate the quiet, boring, and magnificent safety of our own. Time to be grateful for the clean water, the safe food, and the simple, sterile bandage. Time to rest in a world that no longer tries to kill you with every breath you take. Time to sleep,